Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to this week's weekly wrap-up. So, a couple things on the outset. Number one, my allergies have turned into a full-blown head cold, which is extremely inconvenient because that also led to a sore throat because when I slept at night, I'm breathing through my mouth and it hurts. So, I'm going to try to make this video as quick as possible because I still want to get it filmed. Like, I feel okay. I'm just a little bit tired. And I still want to get this content out to you. So that means that we will suffer through. I want to do a quick welcome to a new channel member. We have Steph, who's recently just joined. Steph, I'm so happy to have you on the Book Refuge family. We have now reached 50 members, which is kind of amazing. I never thought we'd get there. That's great. Let's go ahead and get started with this. I have 14 books to talk about. One of them was a DNF. Let's get going. So first off, I want to talk about Say You're Sorry by Karen Rose. I gave this 4 stars. This is a romantic suspense. This was sent to me by one of my channel members, Bailey. Bailey, thank you so much. She sent me a couple romantic suspenses to choose from, and when I got them all, I put a poll up on my Instagram and you guys voted for me to start with this one. So this one is about a serial killer who is preying on vulnerable women. This is one of those romantic suspense where you see the perspective of the killer like all the way through the book. I remember this from when I used to read. I used to read a lot of Allison Brennan, and that was something that would happen in those. This was a thick bitch, man. This was 630 pages. I was able to listen to it on Libby. I was up to like 2.3 speed with this, which is the fastest I've ever listened before, but it was good. I gave it a 4 star. Mostly because this did have some romance in it, but because the story takes place over a pretty short amount of time, there's only so much they can do to progress the relationship and make it realistic. However, this is part of a trilogy. The first 2 books are out. They're not about the exact same characters, but like I met the character who's going to be in the next one, and I actually have the next book on hold for my library, and I actually went out and bought it already because this book is about some characters that I'm very excited about. So yeah, so this one, there's a serial killer loose, and he grabs Daisy Dawson, who is on her way home with her friend, but she knows self-defense because her dad made sure that she knew it, and so she's actually able to fight him off, and she steals a necklace that he's wearing. And this serial killer, when he has a new victim, he takes a souvenir and then he wears that souvenir from this person. So this souvenir that he was wearing belonged to the victim before Daisy. And this locket happens to be a very specific necklace that is connected to a cult that this special agent Gideon was actually a part of when he was young. He was forcibly a part of it. And he's been trying to take down this cult ever since. But they are a mobile cult. They are deep, deep down in there. And this is the first clue that he's had in a very long time. And so Gideon and Daisy end up in each other's proximity. This ends up being kind of like a bodyguard situation because he stays with her to protect her because there's some evidence that the serial killer will still be coming after her. And yeah, so this is a thick bitch. Couple things that I didn't really like I said, of course I want a war romance, but I feel like this was good. Like the chemistry between these two was really great, so I was into it. One of the things, a style that I'm not a huge fan of is because it's such a tight story, at the beginning of each chapter or situation change, they tell you where it is and the time of day, and I get that that's necessary. That was probably a smart choice, but that doesn't mean that I enjoyed it. Does that make sense? So, yeah, I mean, I recommend this if you like romantic suspense. People who like romantic suspense have probably already read this author. I think she has, a crap ton of books out. But, yeah, it was good, and I'm going to continue the series. It was a nice book to be listening to, in between other books. And then I read Forbidden Daddy by Kelly Myers. This was just a short, it's not quite novella length, it's a little bit longer, but it's about this co-ed who's 20 years old, and she rents half of a duplex from this guy who, he's in his 40s. He is her landlord, and they end up having a thing. And it's called Forbidden Daddy because this is an accidental pregnancy book, but that's kind of the premise, so it's not like it's a surprise or anything. And they also do have a little bit daddy kink happening as well, which I liked because it's a little bit spicy. So I gave that 4 stars. Then I have decided to finally get through the Plane of Barbarians because all of them are on AnyPlay. If you don't know about AnyPlay, it is a audiobook and podcast app that for $14 a month you get unlimited audiobooks. And I've been really happy with it. It's really great. But anyway, so I have read the first 2 books in this series, but it's been over 3 years, and it was before I was as quote unquote accepting of weird romance. Like I didn't read things about weird penises and blue felted aliens. I just didn't. So I actually originally gave this book 1 star. I know. I was a stuck-up bitch. It's okay. It's known. So I reread this. I gave it 4 stars this time. I really liked it. I'm going to continue with my reread to see how I like the whole series. I'm very excited to be doing that. Then I read Heavy Crown by Sophie Lark. This was the final book in the Brutal Birthright series. This was about Sebastian, which I was very excited to read his book because in the first book, when we first have the Griffin and the Gallo family butting heads, his sister's future husband actually breaks Sebastian's leg. And he was this tall basketball player. He had big dreams ahead of him, and they were literally smashed the day that this happened. But he doesn't hold any animosity to that anymore. He realizes that he probably wouldn't have been able to be in the NBA with his family life anyway. And so he has changed that. But what happens in the beginning of this is he meets Yelena, who is the daughter of Russian Bratva in Chicago. And Yelena is sent to woo Sebastian. Her father is horrible to her. And in this process of needing to woo Sebastian, she gets wooed herself. But things are not to be a happily ever after for them so easily. I'll say that. This book ripped my heart out. It was so painful. It was so painful. But it was so good. And it definitely sets up the Kingmaker series, which is the next generation of the Brutal Birthright series. So I have started The Heir, but I'm like waiting because there's another series by Sophie Lark that I want to go back and read first. So I gave this 4.5 stars. It was very good. I read The Lunatics by Navessa Elin. I have been reading all of Navessa Elin's backlog. So, hey girl, she watched the video that I did last week about this, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So if you happen to watch this one too, hi. Thank you so much for your interaction. It means a lot to me. But I'm never going to change my opinions because an author maybe found my books. That being said, I really like this book, so I'm happy to say that. This is a new adult paranormal werewolf story, and it starts in a very interesting way. There happens to be this ceremony that's happening where werewolves can go to, like, find their mate, basically. And now she is there to support her friend who's going. And when she's there, something goes awry, and the spell, like, throws its way out, and pretty much everybody who's there ends up finding their mate, even the people who didn't want to get one. So she happens to be paired up with this city wolf, and now they are mates. And mates in this world, like when you're first mated, everything's very intense, and you actually can't be away from them. Like, you can't be further than a certain distance away or you start to go crazy. So these two, who aren't like, number one didn't want to be mated, number two are like, you know, it's the East Coast and the West Coast getting mated together. They're very different people, very different families that they're from, now can't be away from each other. So this is only part 1. There is a cliffhanger, so know that. But I know that this next one is coming soon, and it was so good, and I'm having such a great time reading all of her backlog, which I only have one left to read because I've read everything else. But I'm just enjoying that. I gave this 4 stars. It may be bumped up to a 5-star once I get to read the second half and like see it as a whole, but it was a great time. Then I read Prince of Dreams by Kleypas. Oh my gosh. This was on my TBR for this month because I am trying to get through Kleypas' backlist. Like, I am actively working on it. And this was the one that came up because, again, Any Play has a lot of Lisa's older books. Has some of the newer books, too. This one is about an exiled Russian prince named Nicholas and Emma Stonehurst. And he really... Stokehurst. And he really wants to win her. But once he has her, he doesn't exactly treat her right emotionally. And then this book, he gets Scrooged. That is the best way to explain this book to you. Nicholas has a Christmas Carol moment where he gets thrown back into the body of his ancestor, who also married a woman much like Emma. And he gets shown that he needs to open his heart. So that may seem like a bit of a spoiler, but I feel like you need to set up the context of a Kleypas book just in the way of like Stranger in Your Arms. Like, you kind of have to set it up, and in that it's a little bit of a spoiler. But I love it so much because I wasn't expecting this book to be so much about the hero's journey. It really is all about the emotional journey he goes on and then how he makes up for being a shitty person. So yes, if you love a grovel, this is it. I have a video coming out this week. I don't know which day it'll go up, maybe Tuesday. That is about groveling heroes, and Nicholas, he really fits in there. If you love a grovel, this guy's got a big chunk of the book is his grovel, and it was amazing. The story was so different. I love the Russian elements included. I loved that this was like enemies to lovers to like troubled marriage. Like, that's literally the journey, is like enemies to lovers to marriage in trouble to hero is groveling. Like, it has so much in it. And Kleypas is just a master. And this is one of her earlier books. This was only her like 5th or 6th book. I think it was her 6th book out. And it's freaking brilliant. It's freaking brilliant. I loved it. I gave this 4.5 stars, but I rounded up to 5. The half star is actually that the heroine was a lot to handle. Like, it wasn't just Nicholas who had stuff to deal with. Like, I feel like the heroine, because he wasn't being the greatest husband, I feel like she just got a pass, even though I feel like she could have handled things a little bit differently too. But it was great. I loved it. Then I read The Protector by Elin Peer. So this starts the Men of the North series, which this is a dystopian sci-fi series that is about, the world is like split. It is mostly run by women, but there is a small like section of the world that still belongs to men. And in that place, it is 1 woman to 100,000 men. They only have about 100 women total in the North. There happens to be an archaeologist from the motherland, which I'm sure you can assume is where the women are from, and she needs to go to an archaeological dig site in the Northland. And so the Northmen agree to like protect this person when they get there. What they don't know is that it's a woman. They think they're sending one of the men, because there are men in the motherland, but they're very like soft, cultured, sophisticated men. I'm not trying to say that as a detriment. That's how it's explained in the book. And it doesn't feel like a detriment when you read it in the book, because it's just another thing for the Northmen to be like prejudiced about. But I'm telling you, the discussions that get had are fascinating, because I think Tiffany put it the best in her story on Instagram. This not only shows us like examples of toxic masculinity, it shows us toxic femininity and how we're not meant to go one way or the other. And I think like that conversation is so great. You'll see. I've read 2 books in this so far, and each one has brought up different issues to talk about. And it's been fascinating because as there starts to be couples who couple up, we start to bridge the gap. And what I'm very excited about is this series looks to like that it's going to take place over a couple generations. And so we get to see if these improvements that they're planning, how they will work out and how they will affect the world. So I gave this first one 4 stars. I really enjoyed myself. It was a great time. It is more humorous than you would think. And I believe that they even get a little more. So here's the thing, like it reminded me of Plane of Barbarians, where you have these people from these completely different places and like their sex drive is bringing them together. But also like the men are the traditionalists in a way of like they want to get married and have babies. And the women are like, nah, we don't do that. That's an archaic notion. And so we just get to see the back and forth. And nobody is like right or wrong in this. And that's what's so cool to like talk through. That there can be bad sides to both, and there is good things in both, and I love it. It's just like, num num num, I was just eating it up. It was so great. Then I read Duke of Pleasure by Elizabeth Hoyt, which was book 11 in the Maiden Lane series. This book is about Hugh Fitzroy, who is the bastard of the king and an opera singer, and he is trying to take down the Lords of Chaos, which is what we are doing in these last couple books. One of the reasons why I hated Val so much is I feel like he didn't do enough to try to help do this. But then we get Hugh. And then we have Elf, who is she is one of the ghosts of St. Giles now. She's taken up the mantle to do that. She has hidden her identity for years, right? We've been seeing her around for a few years as well. And only a couple people know that she's a woman. And so she starts helping Hugh to investigate this. Hugh is a widower. He has 2 boys who he is not very connected with at all. And as Elf starts spending time in his house, first as a boy, and then as a girl, and then as, you know, his lover eventually, we get to see her help bridge the gap between his children too, which is, it was really beautiful. I loved it. So yeah, there's assassins and plots and all the crazy things. And I gave this one 5 stars because I really loved it. I loved their romance. I loved that there was a little bit of question about if they could be together. And there is a third-party character who's just like, what are you talking about? You two need to be together. And then there's no like struggle after that. They're like, yeah, we could be together. Like, why would we do anything else? And I love that. Then I read The Ruler by Elin, which is the next book in the Men of the North series. This one is about the ruler, Khan, and councilwoman who we meet in the previous book. And like I said, this really is just furthering the plot. We're going to try some experiments to help mingle the men and women of both sides of the border and see what's going to happen. And in this one, we get to see the motherlands really pushing back and not being willing to try new things, even though they have like profaned that they are willing, and just how our heroine is able to like negotiate things and show them some of their hypocrisies. And I just thought that was so great, because it wasn't the men telling them that they're wrong. It was another woman who's lived on both sides saying there is a way for us to meet in the middle and keep our society moving forward in a great way. It's fantastic. All right, we're waning a little bit. We're getting there, almost done. And then I read Lost Hearts by Lexi Blake. This is a book in the Masters and Mercenary series. I didn't really care for this one. I know that this author has a lot of books that are connected, and I thought that I started at the beginning of a series. But I think this is a spin-off series from another series, because there's a lot of characters mentioned that I had no idea who they were. And I feel like if I'd started at the very beginning, that it would have been different. I'm still going to try other books by her. One of them that's on my list is The Dom Who Protected Me or Loved Me or whatever. And I'll read some more. But this one was about a guy who he doesn't have memories because of things, and he used to be kept in a facility where he wasn't treated well. And so that's the whole thing, is I was very confused. And then there also wasn't enough romance in this book for me, because it's a book like it starts with a one-night stand, and then there's like a bunch of miscommunication in the middle, and then there's a little bit of sex at the end. And I was like, what happened? I missed everything. So yeah. Then I DNF'd The Insiders by Tijan. This was an arc. This book comes out in a couple weeks. And it just was not working for me. This is a new adult. Number one, I'm just not a fan of Tijan's writing style. I've read 4 books by them, and I've DNF'd 2 of them now, and they're just not working for me. This one is supposed to be about a girl who she is secretly the daughter of this really like filthy rich guy. She is a hacker, and she ends up being invited to come and stay with her dad's family, but she's not supposed to say that she's his family. And then there's this guy that she's working with named Cash, who is supposed to be like her handler while she's there, and there's supposed to be tension between them. And then she does a lot of hacking things to get attention, but they're really dangerous what she's doing. So I don't know what the fuck was happening, and I DNF'd it at 50%, and I had no idea what was going on. So there's that. I read Silent Night by Layla Reyne. This is also an e-arc. This book comes out in 2 weeks. This is a male-male age gap romance. This is number 5 in a series. And this one is one that can stand alone. I guess like the first 3 are like a trilogy. And then there's a Sapphic romance, which is number 4, which I'm definitely going to read. And then this one, number 5, which is a male-male romance, which I also want to read. But this is about this private and a captain. And it starts 14 years ago when they first meet, when the private is only like 20 years old and the captain is like 33 years old, and nothing really happens while they are, you know, in the military together. But there is a certain incident that happens like 4 years in where they're going to be like living in different ends of the country. Well, actually, one of them is going to Afghanistan and the other one is going to a different place. And so they have this like one night thing. And then for the next 10 years, they're best friends. Like, they talk to each other through text and they call. And then slowly over time, the older gentleman, Dash, he is able to make his way to California, which is where the younger guy is. And so they're these best friends. They end up in the same town, and he's the chief of police there. Well, it turns out that the younger man, he is part of a criminal family, and he is a criminal hacker. And it turns out that one of the crimes that this police chief is investigating may involve him and his family. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. Number 1, I am not a fan of this style of story. And I've said it again and again. I hate huge time jumps like this. My preferred method, and I don't care, this is personal preference. My preferred method is for us to start at the latest time period. And then you can do flashbacks. Like, I know some people hate flashbacks, but I don't like having to watch our characters go through that level of pain before they get back to each other. And this one just did like the older guy who by the time something is happening for these two, he is 48 years old and the younger guy is 34. And I just am like, you pined after this younger man for all this time. And like, I know he's your perfect mate, so like, whatever. But I feel like that older gentleman just like wasted his life waiting for them to be able to be together. And so I didn't enjoy myself. And then they were together for the last 10% of the book, and that was it. So this didn't work for me. So I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Duke of Desire by Kerrigan, or by Elizabeth Hoyt. Sorry. This is the final book in the Maiden Lane series. And I really liked it a lot. This one is about Lady Iris, who, you know, when I said there was that friend who told those two to be together, that's Iris. She actually gets kidnapped from the wedding of her friends that she's in at the end because she gets mistaken for the bride, because they kind of misled people that the Duke of Kyle was going to be marrying her, because he actually married a street urchin. So they wanted to kind of trick people. So she gets kidnapped. And then we have the Duke of Dymore, who is the son of one of the leaders of Lord of Chaos. That guy's dead, but like, he was definitely raised knowing that this existed. There's a trigger warning for incest and rape. Yeah, this was tough. It was tough. But at the beginning of this book, he rescues her from being sacrificed by the Lords of Chaos, and she shoots him. And then he's like, well, you need to marry me, because if I die, no one's going to be looking out for you. So if I die and you're married to me, you'll get everything and you'll be protected from these Lords of Chaos. It's a flimsy excuse because the girl's got a lot of powerful friends and they could come take care of her, but he marries her instead and brings her to his broken down castle. And it's a bit of a Beauty and the Beast. He has a scar running down his face and a lot of damage, because that trigger warning I just gave you, it's for him, because his, the Lords of Chaos, they are child rapists and other things, which I won't say to get myself demonetized, but trigger warnings for those for sure. And he, Iris kind of falls for him pretty quickly, but this man does not believe he's lovable. He does not want to have children because he's afraid that he will go mad and hurt his children, which is so heartbreaking that he thinks that, but it's, it's a fear that he has. And yeah, this book was so good. It's hard to talk about, but, and I was explaining this to Crystal, who's also finished all of the books. Go check out her video about them. I do plan to make a video about all the Maiden Lane, but I was going to do it today, but this video is going to be everything that I have to give for today. My only detractor from it, why it's not fully a 5-star, is this. We have been coming after the Lords of Chaos for the last 4 to 5 books of this series. We know that they exist and that they rape children. We know that because one of our previous heroines, her father had let people touch her. And I really, for my heart, I needed to see all the previous Ghosts of St. Giles, all the dukes who'd been helping with this. I needed them to be a part of taking this down. Everyone who took a step to defeat them needed to do it. Instead, at the end of this book, we kill some of the bad guys, and then a thing happens where we're able to learn the names of everyone who's in the group, because that's one of the reasons why they're able to keep doing it, is that whenever they have get-togethers, they wear masks and stuff. And so we're just supposed to assume that because we know the names of everybody, that it's all going to be okay. And that just wasn't enough justice for me. And it's the same thing that I said about Val last week when I did my wrap-up about him. When you know the depths of depravity, when you've seen the proof of it yourself or in the notebooks there was drawings, I needed all the Ghosts of St. Giles to get together, the previous ones and the current ones, and to kick the ever-loving shit out of these horrible people. And I don't know if maybe, did she know this was going to be her last book or, what was happening, but that was not enough of an ending for me. So it's still a 4.5. I'm just telling you that, that is an anger that I have that overarches it all. Not this book specifically, but it just, wasn't enough justice for me. I needed more. There are still 3 novellas that I'm planning to read, so I might wait till I read those before I do my full review. I have 2 of the 3 of them already on my Libby app, so I'm going to be listening to those soon. But yeah, it was a wonderful series overall. I only gave 2 books less than 4 stars, so that should tell you, out of 12 books, that's pretty great. And then the last one I just want to talk about real quickly because my voice is dying. I read Tempting Fate by Kerrigan Byrne. This is an e-arc of her newest Good Girl series, which comes out, this one comes out May 11th. I gave this 5 stars. This had a brooding virgin hero. It had a virgin heroine who is soft and sweet. She's the sister, she's a good girl. All her family is gone, and there's someone trying to kill her. So she needs to hire a bodyguard. And she ends up hiring one of, I cannot say their last name, but it's the brother of the previous guy who married one of her sisters. And he has had some facial reconstructive surgery, which is super cool that they did that in this book. Crazy. And he has been obsessed with her for a while in this, sweet way. Like, he's just been looking out to protect her. And he ends up seeing a situation where he can make himself known because she is looking for a bodyguard to protect her. And so he gets that job. And their explorations together are so beautiful. Like, they're just... And he is so sweet with her. And I love it because even when the truth comes out, who this guy is, I think it's handled in a really sweet way. And nobody, like, overblows their feelings, which is always an A+ for me. So, all right. Whew. Thank you so much for making it with me. I'm sorry that I'm a sick little horse today and who wasn't able to go in more detail about stuff, but thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my new channel member, Steph, and I will see you in the next video. Hopefully feeling better than this. Bye.